you talked about what you call the radical left. What do you mean by radical left? People on the radical left are saying things that are not truthful. What do you mean by the radical left?
Senator, I am unsure from where you're pulling that phrase. I don't have the context to answer, Senator.
You do remember talking about the what you consider to be radical left. Mr. Chairman, I hope that I can submit some questions for the record, and it's so disturbing to me that there are some of our nominees who think that they don't have to really respond. I hope that you are not among those, because I will have some questions for the record. Mr. Tung?
Appreciate it, Senator.
There are moments in Washington where you can see the entire struggle for America's future play out in just a few minutes of questioning. And that's exactly what we saw when Senator Mazie Hirono grilled Trump-appointed judicial nominee Eric Tung. Not just about his legal philosophy, but about his faithfulness to the Constitution, his stance on gender roles, and his supposed views on the so-called radical left. It wasn't a friendly conversation. It was a clash of worldviews. On one side, a nominee committed to originalism, the idea that the Constitution means what it meant when it was written, not whatever modern politics wants it to mean today. On the other, a senator who sees originalism as an obstacle to her vision of government power and social engineering. And friends, the exchange revealed something very telling. The left doesn't just want judges who interpret the law, they want judges who will reinterpret the law to fit their political agenda. That's not justice. That's not constitutional. That's activism in a robe. Welcome to America Viewpoint, where we speak the truth, defend our freedoms, and fight for the values that made this nation great. No censorship, no woke spin, just bold, unfiltered commentary from real Americans who love this country. If you're tired of the lies and ready to stand for faith, family, and freedom, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the Liberty Bell, because this is where the fight begins.
I asked the following two initial questions of all nominees to ensure the fitness of the nominees to serve. So I'll start with Mr. Dunlap and then Mr. Tung. Since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No.
No.
Have you ever faced discipline or enter into a settlement related to this kind of conduct?
No.
No.
Can't hear you.
No, Senator.
So, Mr. Tung, you have been asked questions about originalism, and you are an originalist, correct? You have written about it, the importance of originalism?
Senator, I subscribe to originalism, but I would be bound by Supreme Court precedent.
Well, sometimes there is no Supreme Court precedent. So let me just mention that pretty recently in March, this past March, you wrote, quote, "In my view, there is no real rival to originalism when it comes to the proper method of interpretation." And you noted at the same time that, I'm quoting you, "Originalism recognizes that there may be hard cases, but most cases, including the high-profile ones, are not hard, whether there's a constitutional right to abortion, same-sex marriage, sodomy, pornography, transgender protections. The answer for the originalist is simple: no." Do you think that all the members of the United States Supreme Court share your perspective and your view on originalism?
Senator,
Yes or no?
Senator, I understand the justices on the Supreme Court hold different views on the method of interpreting the Constitution.
So not all of them hold your view that originalism is like no real rival to how things should be interpreted. So, Mr. Tung, as a lawyer and prospective judge, do you believe that court orders must be followed by parties to a court unless and until they are ordered by overturned by an appellate court? Again, yes or no? Should court orders be followed?
As a general matter, Senator, court orders should be followed by the parties that are bound to it.
well, I don't know what the general matter is. You should. I would think that court orders should be followed. So, do you believe that someone who contemplates disregarding court orders is qualified to get a lifetime job as a judge? Yes or no?
Senator, you're asking a question that implicates a current issue, and under the canons of judicial conduct, I should not and cannot answer.
Well, you know what? There should be judicial conduct that says all judges should believe that judicial orders should be followed. So you know that this is a matter of concern to quite a number of us on this panel. So you were asked various questions about your views on the role of women and that women can do certain things better than men, and I take it that you believe men can do certain things better than women. And the fact that you may have held these views 20 years ago doesn't mean that you no longer hold those views, because I held certain views when I was in college, such as public service is a good thing. I still hold that view. But yet, when you were asked whether you still believe in these gender roles, which are very limiting, frankly, in my view, you said that the canons of ethics prohibits you from answering. So do you, that's like, this is going to be a live question. Should you become a judge in the Ninth Circuit? Do you actually think that there could be a live question on whether or not a woman's gender role is going to come before you?
Senator, questions relating to, for instance, the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause could come before me, and for that reason, I consider that a live issue, and I wouldn't be able to answer.
Okay,
canons.
well, you know what? We didn't talk about the 14th Amendment, which, by the way, as far as I'm concerned, is supposed to provide equal protection for everyone, regardless of race, religion, etc. But frankly, what is happening with the 14th Amendment is that it is being weaponized, in my view, that this is a Supreme Court majority that is not exactly holding the 14th Amendment to provide equal protection for everyone. So I just have one more question. You talked about what you call the radical left. What do you mean by radical left? People on the radical left are saying things that are not truthful. What do you mean by the radical left?
Senator, I am unsure from where you're pulling that phrase. I don't have the context to answer, Senator.
You do remember talking about what you consider to be radical left. Mr. Chairman, I hope that I can submit some questions for the record, and it's so disturbing to me that there are some of our nominees who think that they don't have to really respond. I hope that you are not among those, because I will have some questions for the record. Mr. Tung?
Appreciate it, Senator.
Okay, thank you.
Before we dive into the blow-by-blow of this hearing, let's lay out exactly what happened. This was a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing where nominees for lifetime appointments to the federal bench were questioned on their qualifications, judicial philosophy, and past statements. Senator Mazie Hirono, a Democrat from Hawaii, is known for her aggressive questioning of Trump nominees, often pushing them to commit to liberal policy positions or to disavow conservative legal principles. Her target this time was Eric Tung, a nominee with a clear record of support for originalism, the constitutional philosophy that says judges should interpret the Constitution based on its original public meaning. Now, you think a judge who actually wants to follow the Constitution would be welcomed. But for the left, originalism is a threat because it limits the ability of unelected judges to update the Constitution to match the latest social trend or political fad. Hirono began with what's essentially a formality, a pair of yes or no questions about sexual misconduct or related settlements. Both nominees, including Tung, answered no without hesitation. That should have been the end of it. But the real battle began when Hirono turned to Tung's writings on originalism. Hirono zeroed in on a statement Tung had made earlier this year, where he wrote that there is no real rival to originalism when it comes to the proper method of interpretation. He also noted that originalism often leads to clear answers on big issues, answers that, in his view, mean there is no constitutional right to abortion, same-sex marriage, sodomy, pornography, or transgender protections. Let's pause right here. Tung wasn't inventing some wild new doctrine. He was stating what originalism logically concludes. If a right isn't found in the Constitution's text or original understanding, it doesn't exist as a constitutional guarantee. It can still be created through legislation, but not judicial invention. That's the difference between a judge and a policymaker. And this is where the left gets nervous. Because if judges stop inventing rights out of thin air, then politicians actually have to persuade the people and pass laws the proper way. That's hard work, and it means the people, not the courts, are in charge. Hirono pressed Tung on whether all Supreme Court justices share his view of originalism. Tung, calmly and professionally, acknowledged that they do not. Some justices favored different interpretive methods. Now, here's the thing. Hirono wasn't just asking for information. She was making a point. If you don't align with the judicial activism wing of the court, you're somehow outside the mainstream. But that's absurd. The mainstream in American law is the Constitution itself, not the latest political poll. Then Hirono moved to an almost rhetorical question. Should court orders be followed? Tung gave the lawyerly but accurate answer. As a general matter, yes, court orders should be followed by the parties bound to them. Hirono wanted an unequivocal yes without qualification. But here's the truth. The law has exceptions, and any honest lawyer will acknowledge that. Hirono then went for the political kill shot. Should someone who contemplates disregarding court orders be given a lifetime judgeship? Tung correctly declined to answer, citing the judicial canons that prohibit him from commenting on issues that could come before him in court. Now let's think about this. The left often accuses conservative nominees of dodging questions when they refuse to give answers on potential future cases. But that's exactly what the ethics rules require. If Tung had answered, Hirono would have accused him of prejudging cases. This is the trap they set for every conservative nominee. Next came an old favorite of left-wing senators, digging up statements from decades ago to imply bias in the present. Hirono brought up comments Tung had allegedly made 20 years ago about men and women having different strengths in certain roles. Tung did not confirm or deny current agreement with those statements, again citing that cases involving gender equality could come before him under the 14th Amendment. Now let's be clear, believing that men and women are different does not mean believing they are unequal under the law. But for the left, any acknowledgement of biological or experiential differences between the sexes is treated as if it's a threat to civil rights. That's how they blur the lines between science, common sense, and discrimination. Hirono, frustrated by Tung's refusal to give her the sound bites she wanted, launched into her own commentary on the 14th Amendment. She claimed the current Supreme Court majority is weaponizing the amendment, not to protect everyone equally, but to advance certain agendas. From a conservative perspective, this is ironic, because for decades, it's been the left using the 14th Amendment as a blank check to create new rights that were never part of the Constitution's original meaning. Finally, Hirono tried to pin Tung down on something he had supposedly said about the radical left. She demanded a definition. Tung said he wasn't sure where she was getting the phrase, and that he lacked the context to answer. This is classic Senate theatrics. A nominee is confronted with a past phrase, often stripped of context, and asked to define it in a way that will be used against them later. And when they refuse to play along, the senator acts as if they're hiding something. At the end of the day, this wasn't just a conversation about legal theory. It was about whether the United States will have judges who follow the Constitution or judges who follow political trends. Eric Tung, by all appearances, is committed to originalism. That means his loyalty is to the text and history of the Constitution, not to the demands of politicians like Mazie Hirono. And that's exactly why he faced such aggressive questioning. The left fears judges they can't control. They want the courts to be a backdoor legislature, pushing through policies they can't pass through Congress. But originalists stand in the way of that. They return the power to where it belongs, the people. You might be wondering, why should you care about some Senate hearing for a judge you've never heard of? Because lifetime judgeships are powerful. The men and women appointed to the federal bench today will be making decisions decades from now, long after the senators who appointed them are gone. If those judges are originalists, they will protect your constitutional rights from government overreach. If they're activists, they will erode your freedoms in the name of progress. That's why hearings like this matter. They're not just about one person. They're about the future of your liberty. This is America Viewpoint, where we don't whisper, we roar. We stand tall, speak loud, and never back down from defending truth and liberty. If this message fired you up, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the fight for America doesn't end when the video does. Until next time, stay strong, stay free, and may God bless the United States of America.